And we're live. Great. Awesome. Hi, I'm Tracey Noriega, and I'm paying it forward to you here on Power to the Peeps. And Peeps stands for positive, extraordinary, everyday people stories. And I have, for the first time, 3 extraordinary people on Power to the Peeps today. And I'm going to welcome G, Bree, and Zeff, all from Project Mayday. They are currently a podcast that is bringing awareness. All 3 of them are first responders, and they're bringing awareness about all of the mental and emotional health issues that, run rampant for first responders. And when we talk about that, we're talking about paramedics, fire department, the police department, and our armed forces. And lots of us know, and I know I've talked about here and in my Facebook page and in paying it forward about mental health, about emotional health and well-being, and have spoken out about a lot about even suicide prevention and awareness. And that is their mission, is to bring this awareness about what runs rampant for the first responders, and to, get it being talked about. Because as we all know, there's still a stigma around mental health and emotional health. And, all of us in one way or another, and I know we actually have someone very, Bree here, and I know myself, I don't know about the other 2, have all had people close to us who have taken their own lives. And it's a huge deal. And then you feel alienated about it. So we need to bring awareness about it. We need to talk about it. And these 3 are doing exactly that on their platform, Project Mayday. So please check them out. And, is it G who's responsible for starting this whole idea?
No, it's Bree. Bree's
It's
the
Bree. The lady. Okay, lady of the house. So,
absolutely. He's
yeah.
he's a leader. He's a leader.
Okay. So, yeah, how did you come up with the idea of this platform?
Honestly, you'll never believe it, but I was driving in my car in one of the only places of peace when you have multiple children, and they weren't in the car. And and
Like there, the bathroom, right?
I was listening to some music, and honestly, I just kind of let my mind wander. And I'm like, man, I really would just love to do that in my life, to have a purpose and just really the things that we've all seen and heard. And you kind of talk about it in secrecy, really. Like it's a secret that you hold on to, that either someone you know close to you passed away, you make up another excuse on how they died, or things that you're struggling with. And so I just kind of thought that'd be fun, and I kind of disregarded it, to be honest, because I'm like, who has time? We all have full-time jobs. And then honestly, with everything happening of a point of crisis, not only in our communities, but with our first responders, I'm like, let's do this. And so we kind of just all collaborated, and we each have our own role, and it's been already an incredible ride.
All right. So did you go to your husband Zeff first to share this story or this idea with him?
Yeah, I mean, we kind of talked about it because he's fire and I'm EMS, private industry. And we already, of course, we've been married a decade, so we know the struggles. And he's always supportive.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. And so how'd G get into this whole thing?
Their adopted child, basically. And
Yeah.
so I've known Zeff for many years, and just the whole family. I'm fortunate enough to be their third son's, or their second son, but third child's godfather, and I hold that very dear to my heart. And so I was actually going through a personal development kind of a goal setting thing, and I wanted to do something in the mental health field for first responders. So we kind of were at a dinner table, and we were just talking. I was like, "Hey, what do you guys think about this?" And Bree's like, "Hey, I've literally been talking about this with Jeff. Like, let's do it. Like, this is just the stars aligning." And so that's how we kind of just went forward with it, and here we are.
Yeah, and here we are because I mean our link is G, and G, I met G. I didn't even meet G till was it Emily, who's another Psy sister of mine, and that's the self-development you're talking about. And she told me about you because she knew about what I'm doing here and exactly what Bree's talking about. You get this idea, and you go, well, who really has time for that, or how can I really pull it off, right? And then you just like, no, you know, it needs to happen. So, you know, wholeheartedly believe about that and the platform of what you're doing. So I want to bring out that anyone who's listening to this right now, that is mission number one at this point, is awareness. And that's something I talk about a lot in even my platform and in the teaching I do with ARC method, which is awareness, responsibility, and choice. And I hear all three of you speaking exactly about that because we have to bring awareness to it. It really is our responsibility, you know, especially those in the first responders. It is our responsibility to give each other a voice and to bring these things out. And we all have a choice to do that. And you guys are exercising that. And so anyone who's listening right now, please go to their website, projectmayday.us. Or go to their YouTube channel and follow them. We need to bring more awareness. They need to have more subscribers because their number two goal is to start not only bringing awareness, but then the awareness, the next part is to collaborate and reach out to, you know, there's already organizations, nonprofits, companies out there who are wanting to do the same thing, who want to bring the awareness, who are actually treating or helping, you know, all these people that we're talking about, paramedics, fire, police, and of course our armed forces, you know, PTSD and everything with suicide awareness. So where do you guys really feel like, of those organizations, who would you like to ideally work with and you know, collaborate with, and how do you envision that so that whoever's watching here and has a kind of company or organization, nonprofit, know that you guys are the ones to what your vision is and how you would like to do that?
You know, it's not just nonprofits. We also are big advocates for first responders with their own companies, reaching out and giving back to their communities. And I think all different avenues around mental wellness is key.
Yeah.
No, absolutely. You definitely hit it on the head. We're not limiting ourselves to just one section, you know, just fire, just police, or just whatever. It's everybody. And nurses, you know, you working in the hospital. We talked about how you deal with the people that we bring in, and so it's everybody. It's all inclusive, and you know, we have people that come on our podcast that we have coming on here in the near future, like professors. We have a professor that's coming on and wants to speak about the childhood traumas of when, you know, how to grow up and how that shapes, you know, why you become a first responder, or what other, you know, just everything starts, you know, in your childhood. So we bring on a lot of different aspects and a lot of different viewpoints. And I think that's what makes us unique in what we're trying to do.
Yeah, and they don't have to be local either. We've been doing a lot of them through FaceTime. You know, pandemic right now with COVID, it's preferred that way anyway. So, I mean, we've been reached out from one person from the East Coast that we're going to be interviewing here pretty soon as well. So it could be from anywhere. Anybody who has a story to tell, we'd love to hear it.
All right, so you hear that too. If there's not only may you be in the field itself serving, you know, on the front lines or in the hospitals, clinics and such, but professors, the nonprofits, how do they get a hold of you? How would be the best way if they're like, yeah, I've got a story to tell, or I'd like to be on your podcast? What would be the best way for them to reach out and find you?
So it would be the website, www.projectmayday.us, and you just go to the send us a message kind of thing, and you just type in your name and give us your little story and a number to connect you with, and we'll take it from there.
Yeah. Let's also point out you guys do have a Facebook page as well. So I know that's another way to get a hold of you or look at some stuff on there. And again, the YouTube, not that it would be the best way to communicate with you, but to watch the videos, to watch, you know, the actual podcast itself. So that was interesting. You guys brought up about the professor. and looking at those things, because I'm going to kind of guesstimate here. Like, I know a bit of Bree's story because I watched the episode where she that was awesome to interview your grandfather. That just to have that experience must have been great for the both of you, on both sides, and being in the CHP for, what was it, 60 something years?
Oh, yeah. He wasn't exclusively CHP for 67 years, but 67 years of law enforcement, and he just turned 90 in August. He still works, by the way.
I kept reading them, like, that couldn't be. I mean, he looks great too. He's so with it. Like, it's just like sharp as a tack.
A little known thing is Bree actually had him on and we recorded, and he wasn't willing to talk about his son, Bree's father, before in that first one that they did. And then when we were like, okay, well, we'll just hold off and not put it out there. And then Bree talked about in that first initial episode of her father, and the trials and tribulations and just the emotional aspect of how she felt from that. And then the next time we talked to him, and he goes, okay, let's do it again. And then he talked about it. Like, it was a firm no in the first one, and then when we redid it, he was able to go into it. And I think that's what it is. It's having someone else be able to share their story, and then that gives you confidence to share your story.
Yeah, that is so powerful. I mean, I watched that and I wasn't sure if it was. I actually had that in the back of my head. I'm like, did he know she was going to ask that? Because you could kind of see him tense up a bit, And my best friend, her eldest son, took his life in college, and it's just one of those things, like you were saying, the secrecy. And do I say it? I have 3 kids. Or do I say I have 2 kids, the same thing like with you, with your father, and him with his son. And so to watch that and him to come out and talk about it was super powerful. And I think that's the big thing about storytelling that is so powerful, is that, how G said it, once you get to talk about it and you're feeling that more comfortable, then people open up and more stuff comes out. And that's the cathartic part of it. That's the healing part of it as well. And have you guys had anyone in your field come to you with what you've been doing just in this short amount of time to give you that kind of feedback that it's made an impact for them?
Yeah, definitely. We have my chief's been talking to me about it. He's, telling me, it's a good thing that we're doing. I get text messages from people, other departments that are around here in the Sacramento area telling me, it's a really good thing that we're doing. So it seems to be going in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I called Bree right when we released our first episode. One of my buddies from where I worked in LA or in SoCal, he was like, I want to record now. Like, I want to record right now. And I was like, we all have our stuff set up. Like, nothing, man. Give me 30 minutes. And he's like, I want to record now. And I was like, give me 30 minutes, man. Let me set it up.
And that's just it, is, I think that's the big thing too, is, you guys spoke about this on the podcast, and for those who aren't in these situations, and again, yes, I can totally relate being in the hospital part of it. So as I was telling you, we get who you guys bring in, right? But we don't have to deal with the issues. You guys are like there on, at the scene with all the mayhem and everything that's going on, that's ensuing, whether you're in the middle of the street or in someone's house with domestic violence going on, and, all the things that are going on. I mean, we get them. We're inside the hospital, they've already gone through ER, I mean, I sympathize for all of the ER people, staff who have to deal with that too, but by the time we get them, they've been, worked up the best they could be, have gotten at least some drips, some, fluids, etc. But then they're smacked down on our table. It's like, then we have that part of it. It's like, we may, have this, we have our schedule all nicely set up, inpatient coming down, this one coming in, and then all of a sudden it's like, no, we've got, a trauma coming through, there's, internal bleeding. It's like, okay, embo's coming on, and it's just like everybody, septic person coming in, and then we have to shift it all. we deal with that, but then, after the fact, they go off. And a lot of like what you were saying too in your podcast that really hit me is that you're just expected to do the next one. So whatever happened there, whether they made it or didn't make it, whether you had to do the chest compressions or not, or well, we didn't find the bleed right now, they're probably going to come back to us, or they just they're tanking, all that stuff. At the end of the day, as you guys bring up, there's no one really, you go home, and if you don't have, and I'm sure still Bree and Zeff, even though you both work in the field and can understand each other, I'm sure there's still times that you don't really want to lay it on each other.
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
And then when you're not in the field, then you try to come home and speak about anything, and people are just kind of like, that's really gross, so the forum that you guys have, I want to say, from the aspect of that, for all the people who are married to people who don't deal with that, they don't have somewhere to decompress at the end of the day, and just to kind of say what happened, just to let it out. So I find what you're doing in that aspect too is really valuable and totally needed. How would you guys say, if there's people out there who are family, friends, loved ones of people who are first responders, armed forces and stuff, how would you advise them to handle this situation, or to kind of be a little bit more open, or inviting, or what could you say too when they come home and they don't want to talk about it? Because there's that too. I don't want to talk about it. What do you guys have to say about that?
This is actually why, too, we're taking all different points of views from our podcast, because it's not just about the first responder. We all are first responders, and that culture is very strong. However, it's the ripple effect. So how does this affect your kids? How does this affect your relationship? And that's also why we're doing podcasts specific to issues. How does a first responder enter into a relationship after coming home after a crazy shift and they're irritable? What are things you're supposed to do and lead with compassion? And so that's also why I think it's really exciting that, yes, we're looking at our first responders. We are the first responders, and we're trying to humanize the experience of, you're not just a hero, right? You're also a person. But then also, let's look at the ripple effect. And if you don't take care of yourself, how does this affect your relationship? How does this affect your children? How does this affect your family and friends? So our podcasts aren't just specific to our first responders too. They're also inclusive of everyone in the circle.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's perfect, because I've dealt with my issues with not having anybody to talk to about it. And, my family and I weren't really close when I was coming into this field. So I didn't have that outlet. And it was just self-destructive kind of. And then once I got a hold of Zeff, and then we became good friends, it was just unloading everything on them, which they understood because they're in the field. And it was, it was very releasing for me. And now I'm in a better state of mind because I'm able to just take that, all that stuff that I see and that I've done. I mean, Bree knows literally everything. And, even though if she doesn't want to, or she wants to, she knows it. And so
it's a TMI situation all the time with you, right, G?
Exactly. Yeah. And so that's very important for that other person to be able to understand that, hey, this person that I love has just seen, this overturned bus with multiple patients, or whatever the case may be. And I need to understand how to finagle my way into having a relationship where it's not going to deteriorate. I'm going to help build that person up still.
I think at the same point, though, I mean, you were talking about advice to probably pull from the Kathy and Gary's podcast that we posted a little bit ago. I mean, me personally, I'm pretty lucky in the fact that I have to commute. So I have like 2 hours in the car to kind of decompress and think about my shift and my calls and all that stuff. And some people who live local, it's like maybe a 5-10 minute car ride home, and that's not really a lot of time to process everything that happened. So Kathy and Gary were saying, instead of meeting them at the door, and we understand that at least in the fire service, we're gone for 48 hours at a time. So give them some time when they come home, rather it's just going upstairs and taking a shower and reading a book, watching TV for a few minutes, and understand that we know that you're home alone with the kids, and that's just as stressful too, just in a different way. But at the same time, you got to kind of process and figure out everything and flip that switch from work mode back to dad or mom mode, and to be engaging with the kids. You just need some time, just a little bit of time before. Yeah.
That's a great point, because you leave one environment just for this other, and then you're just kind of thrust upon it. And yet, what kind of comes to mind, what you were saying there, Zeff, you have 2 hours commute, and then G raising the point about, and I was in a downward spiral. So, I mean, the thing that comes to mind is like, you know what, I'm going to stop off at the bar after work, I'm not going to come home immediately. And that's going to be a way I decompress or deal with it. What do you guys see most of the time is, how people are dealing with it or not dealing with it? What are the, whether it's the drinking. I know I dated a cop for a while, and whenever we went to any police functions, I was floored by how much they drank. I was like, wow. It's just like, I was just, because you get tested for everything else, but you don't get tested for drinking. And I literally, I was flabbergasted at how much they could put away. What do you guys see? What awareness do you have about that? And what would you say to your coworkers and people about, a positive way of dealing with it versus that?
I mean, you definitely see drinking for sure. Drinking's huge, and probably every first responder, doesn't matter, police, fire, military, EMS. Drinking is just a way to numb it, so you don't have to feel and process everything. So drinking is definitely a big one. I'd say being aloof in some ways as well. You just kind of drawn back and don't really have too many opinions about anything. You just kind of go with the flow, or quick to anger is probably another one. Something on a scale of 1 to 10, that's a 2, and you blow it out of proportion to a 10, and your spouse can't figure out why something so small is such a big deal. These are all red flags that, it's something else on top of that too that's, elevating it up to a 10.
Yeah, no. As far as with my personal experience with that at my fire department that I worked at, it was not only alcohol and marijuana and whatnot. It was meth. One of the firefighters at my station was doing meth on duty, and then finally it caught up to him. He would have people come at the station and deliver stuff, and he'd say that they were their family, but that's how he coped with it. That was his, everybody has a vice, and that was his vice. And me being at the station, I didn't know about it until we finally found out, because he left some residue in the trash. And so that's how we found out. And I was with the guy multiple days at the station. I didn't even know. So it's about that person being accountable to themselves and being like, hey, I have a problem and this is what it is, and come out and actually say it, rather than finding out and then having to, fire the guy, rather than getting him the help that he or she needs. So it's not only, just marijuana and alcohol. It stems a lot deeper into other hard, drugs.
Yeah, and I want to point out, I mean, those are extreme examples, and we do have one that we interviewed, Jill Engel, that was one of our first podcasts, and how her story, how she spirals into this, out of control. But, really, this is why we want to do preventative work. So let's talk about it, find other ways to decompress and make this normal to talk about. Like we just talked about the stigma with suicide, and then you fill it in with something else. Well, he died of an accident. I mean, that's right. Instead of just being able to say it. So let's do preventative work before we hit crisis if we can. And that's something we're really advocating. That's why we want to collaborate. What's working right now? We don't have to reinvent everything. We have to find what's working and broadcast it. And so it's like we're doing live research in a way, because a lot of different communities are very disconnected from each other. And they, in all walks, but especially first responders. And I think it's really important to have an open mind. And like we were just talking about, there are red flags. So let's do some preventative work before we have to get there.
I think that's awesome. And, we spoke about, unfortunately, it's such a tagline, right? A mission of preventative care, right? And yet it's the last thing that you see in healthcare, and especially for the people who perform the healthcare. And I can say that too, being in the hospital, you don't see it, so I guess that would be, where to brainstorm first, like right now. Do you see that being even spoken about in the firehouse, with the paramedics, in where there's these, as you pointed out, great, the red flags, that there's some kind of chart or something there to like point this out so people are looking for this, but then it's like not a punitive, answer to it. But is there stuff made? I mean, I can say from being in the hospital, yeah, they'll tell you, oh, go to, what is it? EAP, right? The assistance of it. Who goes there? Who goes to EAP?
Exactly.
No one goes to EAP. Let's say it bluntly, there's no like reception about it. There's no like, hey, you have a problem or something. We want you to go get help for it. I don't know how it is in the fire departments and stuff. Do they speak about this? Do they, what's going on now? And where do you see that there's great, room for improvement?
No, EAP, like you said, nobody goes. However, I have went, and it was not at all helpful by any means. I walk into the room and I see a woman that's about 70, and she's sitting behind a desk and she's asking me all these questions, and I'm like, you don't know anything that goes on out there. You don't. You weren't there when I would dove into a pool to grab two 11-month-olds that were in cardiac arrest. You aren't there. I was talking with Bree when I was in the city that I'm working in now. I had a 1-month-old. Like that lady behind the desk at EAP is not there. And that's where the problem is, because we don't want to go to somebody that doesn't have that same experience. And that's why we're trying to find other avenues into figuring out what we can change in that realm.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things happening that people are unaware of. The company we work with, and we're going to broadcast that podcast, they're doing a coaches program, and it's a mentorship. And so you're hooked up with a coworker who reaches out to you. Hey, I saw you had a bad call, and they reach out to you. You don't have to be the victim and you have it all on you and you're, having to internalize it. Instead, it's outreach. What's going on? And it's within your community. And a lot of it, honestly, is human connection. And first responders are very secretive because of our image, the hero image, the alpha, whatever you want to say. It is a very close-knit community, and there's rivalries between police and fire and EMS, and we all joke, but when one of our own is impacted, the ripple effect is a lot larger than normal civilian life, in my opinion. And so more people are dying of suicide than in the line of duty. That is a huge problem. If your heroes are killing themselves, there's something terribly wrong. So when we talk about what's working, and like the coaches program I just mentioned, and there's some phenomenal things that are happening all over our country that are impacting and improving mental wellness. I'm like, we need to broadcast this for all our brothers and sisters in the field. So I'm really passionate about the preventative measures that are happening.
I agree with you, especially about the, connection between the departments and such, because it's the same thing in the hospital, unfortunately. Somebody comes to us and, may come from somewhere else. As you know, you get into an accident and you are nowhere near home, and we don't have your hospital records at all, and don't know any of your allergies or anything. And it's really, the same thing between all these departments. So, bringing these resources and the awareness that you are bringing, again, to anyone who's listening, of some programs that are assisting with this, addressing these problems, etc., then please reach out to Project Mayday, because that's what they want to do. If you know of these kind of programs that may be in your area, it could be a small local one, but you know what? As you said, they can become a case study. They can become, a way of saying, hey, this is what we have found that works for us in our town, or our city, our region, state. And you know what? At this point, with the ability to hop online, there's no reason not to be international, because this isn't just, something that happens in the States. I'm sure it's happening in other countries the same way. So, because we're all human and we all have, the same stories, the same issues, and, the same, unfortunately, way of dealing with things if we're not taught another way. So, um, let's I'm going to recap what you guys are doing, and what, if you're just joining us or you're still hanging on, thank you, or came in the middle. Project Mayday is a podcast who wants to bring awareness to all of these issues that are plaguing our fire, paramedics, police, and armed services. So we need you, first of all, to sign up, follow them, become a subscriber to their podcast, which is on their website, or go to YouTube and follow them there as well. We're looking for, if you know of an organization, or you are an organization, or in any way can help this effort, bring awareness about it, collaborate, then please reach out. And then thirdly is to looking for other people who want to share their stories in any capacity. As we have heard here, it's a ripple effect, and anyone who, is around this, we're all community. And, I like to put community with a capital UNITY, because it is about unity, and we are all one, and we are all connected. So that being said, I also want to point out, on their website, they do have some merch. You see the hat there that Zeph's got. Yeah. And the shirt and the zipper. So, you want to go around, or, you yourself are a first responder, want to, be a supporter in that aspect, or gift something. The holidays are coming up now, so it's a nice little gift. But I'd like each of you to close out with whatever you'd like, whether it's a message or just how you would like to end this, and bring whatever you got to say that you want to make sure that lands on people's ears, that you have this forum right now.
All right, I'll start like usual.
Ladies first.
Thank you. I really think my message to first responders and family and friends of first responders is that life's already hard. Life is already hard. And in this situation with the pandemic and civil unrest and just everything that's happening, and then you add on trauma that you're supposed to be professional about. And I think my message is, it's really okay to be a human being, and to let your guard down and realize that you're not perfect, which is very hard for me to say because I think I'm perfect. But my message is, life's already hard, so let's start the conversation to make it a little less hard.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah. Because once you do, it softens it up quite quickly. Who wants to go next?
Go ahead, G.
Go ahead, Zeff. We'll go in age order.
All right. I was gonna say, you can Rochambeau it out if you need to.
My message. Mine's pretty simple. It's actually something that I heard. It went, if you don't heal your wounds, you'll bleed on someone who didn't hurt you. And like thought it was really, really good saying, and it applies to exactly what we're doing. You know, if you're hurting on the inside from something else, that's something that you're going to bring home, and that's going to affect your home life, and you're going to bleed on your family members who didn't have anything to do with it, or your coworkers, or your friends. And it's something that you need to address, because if you just keep pushing it down, then eventually you're going to bleed out, and that'll be the end of it. So we're trying to prevent that. We're trying to bring awareness, and yeah.
Yeah, that makes me think of the other expression, hurt people hurt, right? Because when
Yeah.
you're hurting in the inside and you haven't healed those wounds or taken care of it, then you end up lashing out. So yeah, good point. And that's why, yeah, need to have those discussions, those hard discussions, and look for those solutions, because they're all are out there. And wrap up with you, G. What's your big message here?
No, so it's simple as well. When we first got around the table to talk about what we're doing, we obviously had to have a name for it, right? And Zeff was the creator of the name, Project Mayday, and Mayday is the universal distress signal for all these different areas that we're trying to reach: EMS, fire, police, and military. And so you call that out when you're in distress, right? So our message at the end of every podcast is, hey, call out. So that's how we want to end things, is call out for help, reach that hand out, and we'll definitely respond.
Well, and that's a perfect way to wrap up, is to call out. So call out, Mayday, Mayday, and meaning, meaning sign up on Project Mayday, bring the awareness. Please share this video, on your feed with your family. There's somebody knows somebody else who's either first responder, essential worker, some way, in some capacity, hospital worker, etc., or family thereof, who is dealing with this. So we all know someone. We all do. And so if everyone out there does their part to just spread the word just by one share, you don't know where that can go. And I think that's the other thing, that really I loved about the three of you guys doing this, is it is about calling it out, because if we don't say it, it will not get addressed. And as you know, too, if you don't pick up that phone and call 911, no one's coming to get you. No one's coming to get you. And we need to take care of those who take care of everyone else. And that's been a big thing that I have seen. And I'm a proponent of being a hospital worker, having been. We need to take care of the people who are taking care of everyone else. They are people too. Do not put them on a pedestal about being heroes. They are human beings, yes, doing extraordinary things out there, but they need the same thing that everybody else does. So everyone, please do your part. If you're all big about supporting our essential workers, frontliners, and armed forces, and yes, even the police, whatever you may think, the majority of them are good, okay? And everyone loves to see a firefighter come on duty. So, you know what? Let's protect these people. Let's protect these people who are protecting us and saving our lives. Let's save theirs. And with that, yes, everyone call out Mayday. Thank you so much, G, Bree, and Zeff, for what you do. I honor you and salute you, especially Fire Captain Zeff there.
Thank you for what you do.
Yeah, well, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, and with that, I'm just going to say, enjoy the rest of your never before lived day. And everyone, please stay happy, healthy, positive, and ask for help. That's sometimes the biggest, bravest thing you can do, is say that you need help. And if you see somebody that needs help, offer them a hand, an ear, or maybe even just a hug. Okay. All right, you guys, thanks so much. And thank you for those who's, watching this. And again, please share everyone, share it all. All right. Take care. Good night, you guys.
Thanks. Bye.